If you think college football is just about school pride, marching bands, and Saturday night games under bright stadium lights, then you're about to step inside one of the most sophisticated money-making and talent-producing systems in modern sports, a machine so powerful that it transforms teenagers into national celebrities, turns universities into multi-million-dollar brands, and feeds a professional league that generates tens of billions of dollars every single year. Because what most fans see on television, the rivalries, the dramatic finishes, the emotional locker room speeches, is only the surface layer of something far bigger, something engineered over decades through media deals, corporate partnerships, recruiting ecosystems, television algorithms, donor networks, and now an expanded playoff system that has quietly turned college football into one of the most efficient billion-dollar talent pipelines in the world. And at the center of this transformation is the playoff structure, not just a championship format, but a financial engine, a visibility amplifier, and a recruiting weapon that reshaped how universities operate, how athletes build careers, and how media companies extract value from live sports. In an era where almost everything else is losing attention, because live football is one of the few things people still watch in real time, and real-time attention is the most valuable currency in modern media. And the playoff system monetizes that attention with almost surgical precision, starting with television rights that reach into the billions, sponsorship layers stacked across broadcasts, stadium naming rights, streaming distribution, and advertising slots that cost more per second than most companies spend on marketing in an entire year. And once you follow the money trail, you realize the playoff isn't just deciding champions. It's deciding which universities rise into national brands and which remain regional programs fighting for relevance. Because exposure equals recruiting power. Recruiting power equals winning. Winning equals more exposure. And that feedback loop creates dynasties. And dynasties attract more investment. And investment builds facilities that look closer to luxury resorts than training centers. And those facilities become recruiting showcases that convince the next generation of elite athletes that this is where their professional future begins. And when top high school athletes choose programs, they're not just choosing coaches or campuses. They're choosing media exposure, nil earning potential, playoff visibility, and draft positioning probability. And that's where the pipeline truly becomes visible. Because the playoff system expanded the number of meaningful late-season games, which means more national broadcasts, which means more player exposure, which means more individual brand value for athletes. And that brand value now directly translates into income through endorsements, social media partnerships, and collective deals, turning college football from a purely developmental stage into a hybrid ecosystem where athletes are simultaneously students, performers, and personal brands. And universities have adapted rapidly to this new reality, building nil collectives that operate almost like venture capital firms, investing in athletic talent, and donors who once simply funded stadium expansions now directly fund athlete marketing opportunities, creating a competitive marketplace where financial backing can influence recruiting success. And this changes everything about how programs operate, because success is no longer just about coaching schemes or tradition, it's about infrastructure, financial ecosystems, and media leverage. And when you zoom out, you see how perfectly the playoff machine fits into the broader American sports economy. Because professional football relies on a steady supply of elite, game-ready athletes, and college football provides that supply at scale, developing thousands of players under nationally televised pressure environments that simulate professional expectations long before athletes ever reach a professional roster. And the playoff system intensifies the pressure cooker effect, because playoff games are essentially pro-level media spectacles complete with massive audiences, intense scrutiny, and high-stakes performance narratives. And for athletes, performing well in playoff games can instantly change draft projections, endorsement opportunities, and lifetime earning potential, turning a single performance into a multi-million-dollar career swing. And media companies understand this narrative power deeply because storylines drive engagement, and engagement drives subscription retention. and subscription retention drives valuation. And that's why playoff expansion wasn't just about fairness or access, it was about inventory. Because more playoff games means more premium broadcast windows, more advertising inventory, more subscription leverage for streaming platforms, and more global distribution opportunities. And when sports media rights are negotiated, playoff games carry premium pricing because they deliver guaranteed viewership spikes. And guaranteed spikes are incredibly rare in modern media, where most content is consumed asynchronously and unpredictably. And this is why networks compete aggressively for college football rights, because even a single playoff game can outperform entire weeks of standard programming in terms of revenue efficiency. And that financial pressure flows downward into conferences, which negotiate their own media deals, which fund athletic departments, which fund facilities, coaching salaries, recruiting budgets, and athlete support systems, and suddenly you realize the playoff isn't just crowning champions. It's financing the entire ecosystem beneath it. And universities now treat football success as a brand multiplier, because successful football programs increase application numbers, merchandise sales, alumni donations, and overall institutional visibility, turning athletic success into academic and financial leverage. And studies have shown that major football success often correlates with spikes in out-of-state applications because exposure builds familiarity and familiarity builds trust, and trust influences decision-making even in something as complex as choosing a university. And then there's the cultural layer, because college football in America operates as both sport and regional identity expression, and playoff appearances turn universities into temporary national symbols, placing logos, colors, and traditions in front of millions of viewers repeatedly over weeks, embedding them into public consciousness. And that brand embedding has long-term financial value that extends far beyond a single season. And corporate sponsors know this, which is why sponsorship deals around playoff games are structured around association with tradition, excellence, and emotional storytelling, rather than simple logo placement. Because emotional association increases brand recall dramatically, and when fans emotionally invest in teams, they also subconsciously transfer loyalty signals to associated brands. And this is why playoff broadcasts are saturated with sponsor integrations, because the emotional intensity of elimination football creates peak attention states, and peak attention states dramatically increase advertising effectiveness. And then you add social media into the mix, where playoff moments generate viral highlights, debate cycles, and narrative storytelling that extend the lifespan of each game far beyond the broadcast window, turning a 3-hour game into weeks of content value. And that digital echo effect multiplies sponsor exposure and athlete visibility simultaneously, creating a compounding marketing effect that makes playoff participation one of the most valuable exposure platforms in sports outside of professional championship games. And the recruiting impact of that exposure cannot be overstated, because young athletes grow up watching playoff games as cultural events, and when they see specific programs consistently appearing in those moments, those programs gain psychological prestige that statistics alone can't measure. And prestige is one of the strongest drivers in recruiting psychology, because athletes want to be associated with winning, visibility, and legacy building. And coaches understand this deeply, which is why recruiting pitches often include media exposure projections, nil-earning case studies, and playoff pathway narratives, essentially presenting athletes with a career roadmap rather than just a scholarship offer. And the playoff machine also influences coaching economics dramatically, because playoff appearances trigger contract bonuses, buyout increases, and negotiation leverage, turning coaches into high-value assets in an arms race where elite coaching talent can dramatically increase program valuation. And when you combine coaching influence, recruiting power, media exposure, and financial backing, you get a self-reinforcing elite tier of programs that dominate playoff access. And while expansion attempts to widen access, the financial gravity of top programs still creates structural advantages, because sustained success generates compounding resources, and compounding resources generate sustained success. And this is the fundamental reality of the billion-dollar pipeline. It rewards scale, visibility, and consistency more than anything else. And yet the system continues expanding because demand continues growing. Because live football provides something modern entertainment struggles to replicate: collective, emotional experience, unpredictability, and cultural ritual. And as long as millions of people continue structuring their weekends around these games, the playoff machine will continue growing, pulling in new revenue streams, expanding international distribution, and integrating deeper into digital ecosystems. And we're already seeing early signs of global expansion strategies, where college football content is being packaged for international streaming audiences, creating new monetization layers that were unthinkable to decades ago. And as data analytics improves, conferences and media partners can optimize scheduling, matchup selection, and broadcast timing to maximize global audience reach, turning what was once a domestic college sport into a globally distributed entertainment product. And that global potential further increases the value of playoff games, because international audiences tend to concentrate viewership around high-stakes events rather than regular season games, meaning playoff expansion directly increases global monetization potential. And when you step back and look at the full system, you realize the college football playoff is not just a championship format, it is a talent incubator, a media gold mine, a university marketing engine, a regional identity amplifier, a recruiting accelerator, and a financial pipeline that converts teenage athletic potential into professional sports capital, media revenue, and institutional prestige simultaneously. And the most fascinating part is that the system continues evolving in real time, responding to nil economics, streaming competition, conference realignment, and shifting audience behavior. And every adjustment tends to move the machine toward more games, more exposure, more revenue layers, and deeper integration with digital fan ecosystems. And if current trends continue, the future version of the playoff machine may look even closer to a semi-professional entertainment league, operating within university branding frameworks, blurring the line between amateur and professional sports in ways that would have been unimaginable a generation ago. And that is why understanding the playoff machine isn't just about understanding sports, it's about understanding how modern entertainment economies work, how attention gets monetized, how talent pipelines get industrialized, and how cultural rituals can be transformed into billion-dollar economic systems that shape careers, institutions, and entire industries.